4.2, writing equations in point-slope form. So point-slope form is a new one. You've never seen this probably. And so because of that, it looks kind of scary when you first see it. However, I actually like this one way better than slope-intercept form or standard form because it is going to be so simple. So this is the equation you're going to need to know. Y minus y1 is equal to m parentheses x minus x1. And it tells you that your x1, comma y1 is just a coordinate point. M is still your slope, just like before. So let me show you how simple this equation makes it for you. Okay, so number one, it gives us a coordinate point, so we can label this as x1, y1, and this is our m. Guess what? There's only three things that we need to be able to solve this. We need to know what y1 is, we need to know what x1 is, and we need to know what m is, and it gave us all three of those. So all I need to do is do y minus my y1 value, which it tells me is 1, equals my slope, which it tells me is 3, and then in parentheses put x minus my x1. Well, x minus a negative 2 becomes x plus a positive 2. That's it. That's all I have to do. It's awesome. If you were going to put it in slope-intercept form, because it didn't give you b, you would have to do all of this work. So let me show you what you would have to do. You would have to do the y equals mx plus b. You would plug in your coordinate point for y, plug in your coordinate point for x and for m, and then you'd solve it for b. So I'd have 1 is equal to 6 plus b, which means I'd subtract the 6 from both sides. I'd get negative 5 is equal to b, and then I could write my equation, y is equal to negative 3x minus 5. This would be slope-intercept form. A lot more work than putting it in point-slope form. And let me prove to you that they're the exact same thing. Okay, so I can simplify this equation right here by using the distributive property. So I have y minus 1 is equal to negative 3x minus 6. If I add a 1 over to both sides, I get y is equal to negative 3x minus 5. Ta-da! Look, it's the exact same thing we got over here. So they're equivalent to each other. They're just in different formats. So if they give you the y-intercept and the slope, then by all means put it in slope-intercept form, nice and quick. But if they give you a different point that's not your y-intercept, look how much faster it was to get to our answer. This is my answer. I was done at that point. Okay, so everybody try the next one and then check and see how you did. Okay, so we'll label it as x1, y1, and then we substitute in. So I have y minus my y1, which is 5, is equal to my slope of 2, and then parentheses x minus my x1, which is 3. That's it. I'm done. Try the next 4 problems, number 3, 4, 5, and 6, and then check and see how you did. Okay, so I have y minus my y1 value, so that's a negative 2. Minus a negative 2 actually becomes plus a positive 2, equals my slope, which is negative 1, times x minus my negative 1 actually becomes x plus a positive 1. That's it. I'm done. For number 4, I'll have y minus my y value, which is 0, is equal to m, which is 4/3, and then parentheses x minus 5. On this one, if you wanted to just write it as y is equal to 4/3 and then x minus 5, that would be okay too. Either one of those is fine. For the next one, I can do y minus 4 is equal to 7 times x minus 0. Okay? That's it. I'm done. Again, if I want to write it as just 7x and I don't have the minus 0, that's fine. Either one is okay. And for the last one, I would have y minus 2, that's my y1 value, is equal to my slope of negative 1/2, and then parentheses x minus my x1, which is 1. Done. That's it. That's how you put it in point-slope form. So besides memorizing this equation up here, once you have it memorized, it's so easy to use because you've got your slope, you've got your y-intercept, and you're done. So what happens if I give it to you as a graph? Well, the only thing we don't know is our slope. We've got 2 points. I can choose whichever one I want. So I'm going to choose this point as my x1 and my y1, and then I just find my slope. So I count up 1, 2, 3, 4, and over 2. So that means my slope is 4/2, which is 2. So now I have a point. I have my slope. I can fill it in. So it's y minus my y1 value, which was a negative 2, so that becomes plus a positive 2, is equal to my slope of 2, and then parentheses x minus my x1 value, which was 1. That would be completely correct. I also could have used the second point. I could have done y minus 2, because now my y value is at 2, is equal to my slope. That didn't change. And this time it would be x minus 3. Both of those are 100% correct. It doesn't matter which one you give. I would give full credit for both of them. And guess what? If you were to simplify both of these using the distributive property, they would turn out to be the exact same equation. Okay, so try number 8 and number 9. Again, there's going to be 2 options. See how you do. All right, so I'm going to start by finding my slope. So I go up 3 and over 3, but it's slanted to the left. So 3 over 3 would be 1, which means my slope is a negative 1 because it's slanted to the left. And then I can use whichever point I want. So I'll do it with this point first. So I'll have y minus my y value, which would become plus a positive 1, is equal to my slope, and then x minus my x value, which is 4. So that's one option. Or I could do this point. So it would become y minus 2 is equal to, I still have my slope of negative 1, and then I would have x minus 1. That's it. Those are your 2 equations. Either one is correct. They both are the exact same equation when you simplify them and put them in slope-intercept form. And number 9, so I'm counting up 2 and over 4. So up 2 and over 4 would be a slope of 2 over 4, which is 1/2. And then I can use either point. So let's start with this point. So I would have y minus negative 1, minus a negative 1 becomes plus a positive 1, is equal to my slope, and then I'd have x minus 2. Or I could do the exact same equation, but for this point. So this would become y minus a negative 3, which would become plus a positive 3. I still have it equal to my slope of 1/2, and then I would have it as x minus a negative 2, which would become x plus a positive 2. And again, if you don't believe me, use the distributive property, simplify it, get y by itself, and you'll see that they are the exact same thing. So when we get to 13, 14, and 15, it's given us 2 points. It's given to us in function notation, but it's still given us 2 points. So I need to start by finding my slope. So my 2 points it gave me on 13 are negative 3, negative 1, and negative 2, 4. So I would find my slope, so I'll do y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And then I simplify it. So 4 minus a negative 1 is the same thing as 4 plus a positive 1, which is 5. Negative 2 minus a negative 3 is the same thing as negative 2 plus a positive 3, which is 1. So my slope is 5 over 1, or just 5. And then again, I'm going to have 2 options depending on which of my points I want to use. So if I use my first one, I will have y minus a negative 1 becomes plus a positive 1 is equal to my slope of 5, and then x minus a negative 3 would become x plus a positive 3. So that's one answer you could give. Or if you use the second point, I would have y minus 4 still equal to my slope of 5, and this time x minus negative 2 would be the same thing as x plus a positive 2. Okay, let's go ahead and do one more and make sure you've got it. So try number 14, write your 2 coordinate points, find your slope, and then write what your answer would be. You only need one of the answers. I'm just giving you both so that you can see both are equivalent. Okay, so my 2 coordinate points would be negative 2, 1, and 1, 7. So if I'm finding my slope, I'll do 7 minus 1 over 1 minus negative 2, which gives me 6 over 3, which is the same thing as 2. So then I will use the first point. So y minus my y1 value is equal to my slope, and then x minus my x value is a negative 2, so minus a negative becomes plus a positive 2. That's one answer you could have given. Or if you wanted to use the second point, it would be y minus 7 is equal to my slope of 2, and then x minus my 1. That's it. That's point slope form. So take a second, summarize how you use point slope form, circle anything that you have questions on, or star it so that tomorrow in class you can make sure and ask those questions.